Coming up next, Curries Corner. The opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily North Radio, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Time for Curries Corner with Pat Curry.
Hey, Jen, what about me?
And you too, Pete Kent. Sponsored by Bab Ford in Reed City, Wenger Insurance, and Big Rapids Pennzoil and Auto Repair.
Good morning, Bobby. Good morning, America. This past Sunday, very good friend of all of ours in Big Rapids and Marcinkewciz, untimely death. It hit us hard, and so this next hour is going to be a tribute to John's life from some of his friends here in Big Rapids. And I got some notes from people that had posted me on Messenger and what have you about him. And to me, he was a rebel that had the biggest smile and the biggest heart in the world. He did some things that we're not going to say, but he just a great fan of life. He emulated all of us in some way or another, from his childhood days to his adult days. He was a great worker. He was an entrepreneur. He took things from rubble and made them into little palaces. He made a difference in a lot of people's lives. Anyone that met him, he made a difference in their lives one way or another. He gave poor a place to live. He helped people more than any of us will ever really know. I know myself, I've got stories about him. He's 53, I think, his age. I'm 69, so I was a young man, or young fellow when he was born. But what an impact he had on a lot of people's lives. And I got with me today Jerry Garner, Joe Bayshaw, and Joe Harley, not here yet, but he's going to be coming in. Hey, it would be kind of like a celebration of life on radio for a guy that we all loved and cherished. The memories are going to be lasting forever and ever and ever. And I'll tell you, I don't know, Jerry. I'm going to start with you a little bit because you knew him when he was a young man, a boy, I guess you might say, huh?
Yeah, we were. I didn't really know him well until we got into high school, I suppose. Okay. But he went to St. Peter's, and we lived in different wards of the city. But knew a little bit about him before that. But we became friends in high school.
A little bit closer.
Okay, and so we became friends in high school, and instant friends and good friends. And in high school, his folks used to have a bunch of us kids over on Friday nights for pizza, and his family was just real good to a bunch of us kids when we were in high school, and then through college. And then, of course, as you know, a lot of your friends probably didn't stick around here, Pat, but
no.
But you know, the guys, that people that do stick around, they remain close with one another usually and talk. And so he ran a business here, and I did, and so we remained close after that. But the guy, I mean, you said it. So many things different things, but he was the most genuine person you'll ever meet in your life, and that's what I'll tell people. He lived life exactly the way he wanted to live it. He didn't make any excuses for it, or didn't. No apologies, anything like that. That's who he was, and it'd be, that's the best thing you can say about the guy. He genuine.
You made me smile when you said that. When I heard of his untimely death there, we all kind of wondered. We all got teary-eyed, didn't we?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because, he was a part of all of us that we wanted to be, some of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he always had that smile, didn't he?
Yeah.
Even when he had hard times,
Big booming laugh and always a smile, and always always greeted you with a smile and a laugh, and that's to that, I'm sure.
Well, going back to you, Jerry, a little bit first. Tell me about his friends in high school. Who were they? Paul Addington?
Yeah.
Was Jim Toogood, eh?
Yeah, Paul, Jim, of course, a bunch of the guys on the football team.
Right. You played, eh?
Craig Martin, and Craig ended up being a police officer in Ann Arbor, but a bunch of us just hung out together in school, and just a real good time. We had
Yeah, carefree, loving guy.
Growing up in Big Rapids, as you know, it's a great place to grow up, and we had a lot of fun.
And then he went on to Ferris and played football up there for a few years, didn't he?
Yeah. So he went and played at Ferris and got his degree there, and
one of the couple of guys reached out to me after they heard Smith. Jeff's done real well for himself down in the Detroit area. He's a builder and entrepreneur, and he reached out to me and he said, "This is just unbelievable. What a great man we just lost." And we had so much fun with him. He was such a contributor to the football team up Ferris.
Yeah.
And Jeff said, "If there's anything anybody needs, let me know." And he means it.
Yeah.
And Ed Filiak, Montreal, Quebec there, and he heard of his untimely death. And he and Johnny go back in the 90s of playing football, and Ed ended up playing for the Buffalo Bills. And the first game that Ed played in Buffalo, John called him and said, "Hey, I'm coming out to watch your first game." So he went out, and Ed put him up for the week.
Yeah.
And they had a great time, reminisced, and just had a great time. And John, them too, we can talk about that in a little bit. But was that the same time John went out, when you guys all went out together?
Yeah, so the four of us went out. Paul, Jim Toogood, John, and myself went out and stayed with Ed. And, I mean, we got to go to the game, and they won the game. So we went to Jim Kelly's house, and at that time they were just doing their Super Bowl run and all that stuff. And so all those guys that were really great. One thing we took from that, you watch professional football, you don't know much about it, but these guys are sitting around in a basement, drinking beer and just shooting the breeze, and just regular guys. And it was a lot of fun. A lot of good guys, but that was a great trip.
Yeah, I remember them guys. You guys were, I laughed because, again, I'm older than you folk. You guys just lived life to the fullest, and John was the leader.
Yeah.
But I remember, anyway, so Ed was telling about that and how fortunate he was to be a friend of his. And then he said, 25 years later, his son Brett plays for Ferris now.
Yeah.
And Ed wanted to come out to see this all happen. And John called him and knew he was coming to town. He goes, "Ed, I got a place for you right on the river. I want you to come." And Ed said, "No, I'll pay." And he goes, John said, "No, you're not." He goes, "You don't know what you did for me back when we came out to Buffalo. I'll never forget that." So Johnny's one of those guys that never forget, And my little story on him is I had a coincidence, maybe you might call it, but we were out one night, and something happened, and it wasn't serious or nothing, but I went home and I called the place up, and I said, "Hey, I'll be out this morning, blah, blah, blah." And they said, "It's all taken care of, Mr. Curry." I said, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, John Marcinkewciz took care of it." So as years go by, John's service truck broke down up in Reed City there, and he had it towed in up to a garage up there, and they found out it was more than they expected to fix. So he called me up, and he says, "Pat, I need my truck towed up to Cadillac." And Adam and I went up and got it, obviously, because it was a heavy service. And that was the first time I'd ever been to his rental place up there. And first thing he says to me, "How you doing, boys?" With that big grin on his face, and "Great, Johnny." And he goes, "What do I owe you?" And I said, "Nothing." And he goes, No, you can't do that for nothing." I said, "I can for you." I said, "I don't forget. And we're friends."
Yeah.
And he gave me his credit card, and he said, "You put that on the credit card." And he looked at Adam and goes, "You write that number down, take it back, and put it on my credit card." He called up and he goes, "Hey, I never got a charge." I said, "Well, it declined." He goes, "Oh, I did not decline." I said, "Well, now don't ask any more questions, because it's not going to do." My whole point is, Johnny's one of those guys that would do it for you.
Yeah,
right?
He would. Yeah,
and,
for sure.
He sure did. Joe, talking to you a little bit, Joe Harley over here. I know you and John are very close to Harley Davidson. You also saw the emblem on the station sign. Adam put that up. I thought that was he loved his Harley Davidson, and he loved Joe Harley. You guys go back to the 90s also, don't you, Joe?
The late 90s, yeah.
Late 90s, yeah. Put the mic right up to you. But I know whenever I saw anything on Facebook, if you were on it, John was on it, and I know you guys belonged to the club up north, or whatever, and he would go up there. And
yeah, he belonged to the Harley crew up in Gaylord. I belonged to another motorcycle club that he would come to. He would take me to his.
Motorhome, did you ever go in that?
Oh, yeah, I had the motorhome.
Hog Wild.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stayed at my house for quite a long time.
Yeah, that's quite a...
We used that motorhome to ride around after my wife and I got married.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And he was in your wedding?
Yep, he stood up my wedding.
How did you two meet?
That's a great question. It was so long ago, I don't remember exactly how we met, but when we did, we just hit it off, and pretty much we're in love for motorcycles and things like that, and just stayed together.
Well, listen, we're going to take a little break. We're going to come right back to you, Joe, and we also have Joe Bashaw. But Kerry Bashaw reached out to me, and Kerry and him, Joe will elaborate on this a little bit later, but they were like a brother and sister. I know he spent a lot of time at the Bashaw's house back in the day when he was young. And there's more stories to come up, folks, but we just want to kind of take a break, and I believe he loved. Hit it, Bobby.
When you're thinking of a new car, you're thinking about family. A car that will keep yours safe and serve them well for years to come. So with that in mind, shouldn't your next car or truck come from someone who treats you like family? Owned and operated dealership, serving folks in Big Rapids, Reed City, and beyond since 1954. And now their lot is filling fast, so it's a great time to get behind the wheel of a new quality Ford vehicle. Check their website and Facebook pages to get daily specials. You'll find just what you want, we're sure. Trust the dealership where families have shopped with confidence for nearly 70 years. Bab Ford in Reed City.
I'm Seth Wenger from Wenger, been providing professional service and competitive insurance to West Michigan. Come visit us on Perry Street in Big Rapids or give us a call at 796-0778. We're here for you now, and we'll be here when you need us most. 796-0778.
You're busy enough, and sometimes your vehicle can't wait to be seen. Thousands of miles over what that little sticker suggests? That's not good. With no appointments needed, Big get you in and seen right away. Oil changes, new tires, to full auto repair. Big Rapids Pennzoil makes it easy and tops it all off with a free car wash every time. Local service from local people. That's the Big Rapids Pennzoil difference. Pull on in. You'll see. 710 North State Street, Big Rapids.
Welcome back, folks. We're tribute to John Marcinkewciz today, on a lot of other people in town here. Well, we do. This one, he just hits real hard because of his age, 53 years old. You know, recently we lost John Montgomery, a great pillar of the community. He was involved with a lot of people besides his family, and we should give him one too. But John, we're going to miss you. We thank you very much. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family. Great guy. But getting back to John Marcinkewciz, had a heart attack, or a couple of them, I guess, and folks that didn't know him, his dad died. I knew Tony real well. I used to have a few beers with him at the Eagles, the old one where Wild Rose Cafe's at, or was. And Tony died young, too. I don't even think he hit 50, do you think, Jerry?
No, I think he was 46 or 47, maybe. Yeah.
And he taught law at Ferris.
Yep.
And I remember him well because it was mostly at the Eagles on Friday night, and Tony would walk in there, and here he was a teacher at Ferris. It was like, wow, we got some class in here, folks. Some educator wants to drink beer with us, you know. And he was just, to me, he was an exciting fella because of his spirit, and I think John got that from his dad. But we want to talk about Carolyn a little bit, too. You know, the poor lady. When I say poor lady, I mean in the life, she lost her dad, heart attack, and then she married Tony, and he left her, and she kept going for her two kids, Eric and John, and she was quite the entrepreneur, still is. Had a lot of rentals in town here, had a very good reputation, was very much involved with political parties here, and left a mark. And she left Eric and John, and unfortunately she lost Eric a few years ago.
Yeah,
to a heart attack, and he was a terrific young man. Lord took him home, and now she lost John. You know, Carolyn, I don't know how a mother could take that. You know, the greatest gift God ever gave us is a child, and you raise them, and I pray to God that none of them ever leave before I do, but if one did, it would be hard. You really have to have a lot of faith, and I know she's a woman of faith, but she just unbelievable what she's going. Pray for John's soul. I'm sure he's in heaven around the throne there with all the other motorcycle group guys up there, that God has forgiven the wild life that they led. But, pray for Carolyn. Keep her in your thoughts and prayers, folks. But back to you, Joe. You know, how many miles do you think you rode with him on the old Harleys?
Oh, thousands. I mean, we rode a lot. We took road trips in the motorhome. We go down to Daytona. I mean, we were everywhere.
Do you think that John ever ran into anybody, and I don't say this facetiously, but didn't like him? I mean, you know, he was a powerful-looking man in stature, and
the only people that didn't like John is the people that did him wrong.
Yeah.
Because once you did him wrong, you were not a part of his group anymore.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And there was a few
advantage of him. He had a huge heart.
He did.
Constantly said, "Don't take my kindness for weakness."
Right. Yeah.
And if they did, they were out. He'd give everybody a shot. He had all kinds of friends.
Yeah.
And then if they did him wrong, they were not his friend anymore.
And what's going on in the world today and what's going on in Big Rapids right now, the turmoil that this new plant that they're thinking about bringing in John's life. And I looked at it Sunday when I heard the news and I thought, wow, I wish I had one more day to say hello to him because he always inspired me. The older you get, you need younger people around you, and that's quite frankly why I like you two guys because I think youth helps an old man understand that, hey, it's been a great life and it still is. These guys got spirit. John had that, man. When he'd come in the station, I never saw him once without a grin on his face.
No, definitely not.
And like you said, in the last days of his life, he wasn't feeling that good, but he didn't want anybody feeling sorry for him, did he?
No, he wanted to live his life his way, and that was it. And they tried to get him to go to the hospital, but he was stubborn. He said, "I'll be fine. I'll be fine."
That song that we played there, isn't that sums up his life, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
With his wife, Shelly. Yeah. Tight.
Oh, Shelly's great.
And that was the best thing ever happened to him, eh?
It turned him around. It helped him out. She did a lot for him, and vice versa. I mean, he looked at life differently with her around. She was fantastic. Or still is.
Yeah. So our thoughts and prayers are out to her too, eh?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. She's going to need you guys around her. I never really got to know her that well, but he was busy. He was a busy boy, wasn't he? He was always remodeling something, wasn't he?
Extremely busy. He would not slow down for nothing.
Busy. No, well, I was going to say that you've never met anybody that worked harder than that guy.
He was constantly.
I don't think you have.
I know. Adam took his truck up there. Here he was working on something mechanically, and he had mechanics there working alongside of him, but he got his hands dirty. He wasn't one of those executives in the front office, even though he sold too, and he rented. I watched him rent some.
Yeah, he'd tackle anything. He'd call me up, and when I was slow in the winter, he'd offer his shop up in Cadillac. You bring your equipment up, we'll work on it. We don't know how to fix it. That's what YouTube's for. Yeah. We'll get on YouTube.
So they helped.
Well, Joe, we can go back to his younger days now. How old was he when you did? They lived in the neighborhood of yours, right?
Yeah, at the start, but him and my daughter, I guess we went to the same church. That's how we met. And Mary was the nursery school teacher, if that's the right word. And yeah, my daughter Carrie and John were best friends, or whatever you want to call it. It's and the whole family actually has been close. But yeah, John, even as a kid, okay, Mr. Bayshaw, all right, I won't do that again. All right, Mr. Bayshaw. But it wasn't that bad, was it, Mr. Bayshaw? I was polite, but I just call it full of life. And he lived like Joe and Jerry and you to the fullest. And I don't know what else to say. I'm so proud of him because he'd help me once in a while when he was a kid in high school and stuff, work for us, and never slow down. Always willing to learn. He had a few hitches in the middle part of his life there, but he always appreciated people he could turn to and that had his back because it was through life. And then I remember when he played football, and yeah, he was something to watch. He was kind of a demon when he put the helmet on. I guess is that how some people. Then when he went to Ferris, he met Monty Brown and that whole group, Ed and them. What a group! Because back then, I don't know if you remember the Gridiron Club, but those guys would always show up, after stuff like that. And then in later life, like I said, John was a special person. I'll say more as we go, but
I remember talking about football. I remember they had that spring day game there, and a couple of years ago, or maybe last year, he went to it. He probably went every year, but anyway, I remember the one year he came. Boy, everybody went right around him. Yeah, he was like an icon. Spirit, man. He always had that smile and that generosity, like you say, Joe.
He was happy.
Don't cross him, and he's your best friend. I like that saying. What was it again? You said,
don't take my kindness for weakness.
Right.
Yeah, that was kind of his mantra.
Yeah. I think I won't mention the name.
It is what it is.
I remember the one guy did cross him, and I kind of liked the other fella too. And John, I mentioned his name, and he goes, "No, Pat. Trust your judgment, John." But he also grew up out by Grant Center, didn't he?
I don't remember.
He must have.
That.
The Fullers were real good friends. Mark Fuller, you know Mark?
I know Mark, but I don't think. I think they lived in town their whole lives.
Yeah, they did, but they must have been friends with the Fullers because they got to be good friends. Maybe you went out to his house or whatever.
Well, Mark graduated with us, so Carrie and I and John and Mark all went to school together. So with John and everything. So we were. I mean, it was Big Rapids. It's a small town.
Right.
Everybody knows everybody.
We like to keep it that way.
Yeah. He opened his house.
Well, here's something. Joanne Smith, and she was Joanne Fuller, Bill Fuller's daughter from Grant Center. She wrote this little skit about John. John and my brother Mark Fuller were great friends growing up. John used to come out to the farm and hang out a lot. A few years ago, my husband Ray told Jerry Long Bear Hug, which everybody knows he loved him, that it used to make him mad watching him hug his wife like that, but not so much anymore. As John was still hugging me, he looked at Ray and said, "Good, because I'd kick your butt all while I'm hugging your wife." Yep. So we will miss his smile, twinkling eyes, great friendship, and his hugs. Yeah, that was John, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Then when he was about 6 or 7, he came to our house around the corner from his parents selling pumpkins. And he was a salesman, wasn't he, even back then? He was such a cutie. Pumpkins were 25 cents a piece. I only had $1, and I wanted 2 for $1. He looked at me and said he had to ask his dad first. He came back 20 minutes later and said that was a deal he would take. So I think that's when he started being a little entrepreneur himself. But there's just a lot of good things in here that John touched so many lives. And Joe, I know, going back to you a little bit on the motorcycle, he kind of was that song with the Eagles, hair blowing through my window. He didn't wear a helmet a lot, did he?
At first he did it, we had to, but then afterwards he,
flying down the road, that hair, cool air going through his hair, and just that big smile on his face, But Joe, back to you now. When he was a kid, did you see where he was going to be an important figure in everybody's life? Did he have that spirit back then and go get you, kind of attitude?
What I saw is, like I said, the respect he had. He treated her, like a sister. Sometimes gruff, sometimes, but always with a hug at the end.
Yeah.
And when these guys were, Jerry, seeing them around, I mean, I don't know if John was the leader, but he definitely wasn't a follower.
No, he never was.
These guys were a group. That's how I remember all of them.
Yeah, but and John's personality was the magnetic personality.
Yeah,
people were drawn to him for sure.
Yep. Back in his earlier days, he made some mistakes, but as it turns out, it really wasn't a mistake. He was just born before his time.
That's right.
That is right.
And he knew how to grow plants probably better than anybody today does. But really, we laugh about that, but even in those days, I liked the guy. I mean, you just couldn't help but love it above the law sometimes. But he paid the price.
Yep.
And he came right back and redeemed himself, but he never was changed man. He was always still proud of what he has accomplished, proud to share what he's accomplished, and never flaunted it. He was humbled by a lot of his accomplishments. But I guess that's what we're talking about, is just maybe sometimes we look at ourselves and say, boy, I wished I could be more like John,
Well, and I'll just say a couple of the guys that when he went away, he was still friends with.
Yeah.
He made friends when he was in there, and he was friends with them. It didn't matter to him what you did. If you were good to him, he'd be good to you.
Yeah. I know. We went to visit him, and it's hard to believe how upbeat. And he goes, "It's okay." So he called me Dad a lot, but it's okay, Dad. I'm good. I'm gonna do good. I'm gonna do my mother right. And you talk about Carolyn. She stood by those boys, like you said, above and beyond, and them the opposite too. I mean, they treated their mother like a a queen with respect. And, I don't know.
I need to interject just a second to say WBZX Big Race, everybody on the panel once more time in case somebody just tuned in.
Right. Well, we got Joe Harley from Harley Tree and Sons Service here in town. Joel's been with us. I used to call him Joel for years. Charlie Harley and I are best of friends. And I'll tell you, let's talk about each one of these individually. Joe is a lot like John. A lot like John. You know, and the sad thing about what we do, sometimes we do it too late, still alive, so we can hear what kind of people that we think he is. Joe emulates John a lot. Joe's a very, very honest guy. He's had a very good reputation as a tree trimmer, a tree downer, whatever you want to call him, tree service guy over the years. His dad started it, and he's made it even better than Charlie had it. But Joe's got a nice family. He's raising a son and a daughter. I got a lovely wife, Teresa, and he... to me, anyway, I remember years ago, I wanted to take Adam, my son, down in 2003 for a senior trip to Florida. And Charlie happened to be in the station. He worked for Consumers at the time. And I needed a trailer to haul his Jeep. I wanted these guys to have a memorable trip. And Charlie, Harley, and Joe sat there, and they said, you know what, take our trailer. And to me, I thought, wow, I don't know if I'd let some. These guys were pretty adamant about it. And I took it, and I'll never forget that. You know, that's a John, Joe, John, that just two peas in a pot, and I guess that's why they're two best friends. But the Harleys, again, if they like you, you can do no wrong. But if they don't, then you cross the wrong path. But just wonderful people. So I got Joe Harley with me talking about his good friend John. Jerry Garner, known him since he didn't fit the mold of a gardeners. Most of them are firemen. His grandpa was Howard, right? Yeah. And your dad and uncles and uncles and uncles, all the gardeners. And then Jerry and his mother, Century 21, got into that at a young age with your mother, right? You've been doing it for how many years?
I think I started when I was 25. Yeah.
And the one thing Jerry Garner with Century 21 has got is a very good reputation. He just does a great job for his customers. And again, that's John Marcinkewciz. Same thing. So they come two peas in a pot. But I know I've used Jerry, and he's been very reasonable and helpful. I bought that property out on 220th. He found me a renter within 2 or 3 months after I kind of let people know it was out there. Very grateful for Jerry's expertise in real estate. And then Joe basically did $10 one night on a street party and had to help him home.
They didn't have Uber back then.
But Joe goes way back in the day of the Eat restaurant. He, along with his buddies back in the cement days, I had a radiator shop, and I'll never forget one day he came in pretty sober, acting like his son had got kicked in the head, Matthew, and he was in Grand Rapids help, and he has been forever grateful for that, I know. But we're grateful for his fatherhood. He's been a good daddy to his boys and daughter, and helped out the community a lot. Joe's been in the county commission, should get back in it, not too old yet, and very passionate about Big Rapids. So what we have here is a little bit of John Marcinkewciz in each one of these guys. I mean, like I say, Joe Harley can't beat the family. Garnham, he can't beat that family. It's Big Rapids. Marcinkewciz or Big Rapids. Unfortunately, we've lost him. But enough said. Let's go to my song for John on Billy Carrington, eh? This is my song. All right, Bobby. I'll tell you what, Bobby. Don't you think that's one of the best written songs ever?
It's very nice.
Ellen Jackson does a great job, but I get a little teary-eyed because of I think of Zott's Bar a lot, because I go in there once a week to be with old Jake and Doug and Todd and all my buddies, Dave Tassoni, and keep him in your prayers. But anyway, I think of that song as Zott's Bar, and it just got making a lot of memories down there. But getting back to memories, John Marcinkewciz, we're talking about him this morning, giving him a little perk this morning with Jerry. But I know you said something earlier about your dad, what your dad thought of John.
Yeah, well, going back to what Joe, Bayshaw had said, that, when he was younger, my dad had mentioned, and this was before John passed away. He said, of all your friends in high school, John Marcinkewciz was the most respectful young man that ever came over to the house.
Wow.
He would always he'd always come and thank you and thanks for having me over, that kind of stuff. And so even, as a kid, he was raised right. His folks raised him right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's quite a tribute to him right there.
Yeah.
And he did that to a lot of people. I know, like I say, I keep on repeating myself, but God, I'm going to miss the pat on the back and the big smile. How you doing, Pat? Just those 3 words. Joe, tell us a little bit about you again and John's relationship.
Well, back in, I'd say, the late 90s, early 2000s, you mentioned my wife earlier, Teresa. I had met her, started dating her, and I was buddies with John. Well, I didn't know that she knew who he was. She didn't ever mention it. So she was a cheerleader at Ferris.
Oh, yeah. She knew him.
And we all were at my house one night, and John came in, and we're hanging. He's looking at Teresa going, man, you look familiar. How do I know you? And she's like, I don't know. Why? What do you say that? And he looked at her, he goes, you wrecked my Corvette, didn't you?
Oh, my Lord.
She's like, yeah, I was hoping you didn't remember that.
Wow, really?
Yeah, so her cheerleading coach at the time was good buddies, Jason Hensel, with John, and John's Corvette was there. And he's like, you want to drive it? You can drive it. Well, the roads were wet, and she gave it a little too much gas and jumped the curb, and somebody seen it happen. They brought the car back. Didn't really hurt it or anything, but brought it back. Well, next thing you know, the cops are knocking on John's door, wanting to know why he got in an accident and left.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that would be John.
Well, it was Teresa, not John.
Oh, my Lord.
He laughed it off and like, oh, well, no big deal.
Yeah. That's what they meant. I'd like to, looking at these 2 young guys and, thinking, all the same traits. I guess really all of our families too, but you can see why people are drawn to each other. I mean, for those same qualities. It's something to see.
Yeah.
Well, like John on the Ferris football team. He wasn't the biggest guy, and nobody was going to stop him. And he learned the respect of the Ed Filions, the Monty Browns and stuff. And he was good, don't get me wrong, maybe not that level, but for what he brought to the table, he was well respected. And that's what he did at work. Even when he, like I said, a little kid, everything was full bore and
go
to do the best,
He didn't.
No, I don't.
Or did he, Joe, you think?
Not really. I mean, he definitely had his strong opinions. But
what would you say he was? Conservative? Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. No, he was.
I don't like to get into politics.
No, I know. That's one thing I love you about that. I don't either.
If you had to say, I would say, yeah.
But, yeah. And, he was for human rights.
He wasn't a politician by any means, no.
But you know why? I think that's the other thing people liked about him. He never at the fullest.
Yeah.
And be good to people, and hopefully good getting back to him would be good to him. And I felt bad for him. Some of his posts that he would show that he'd fix up a bathroom or a living room or a kitchen, and they'd just trash it.
Yeah.
And that hurt him, because I don't think he realized that people weren't all John Marcinkewciz. They didn't have respect. They didn't value material things like John did. And John, I think, and he thought everybody else would too, but, and he would do something like that, build a nice little nest egg for somebody, and then they would trash it. You'd go, how can you do this to me?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't about the material things, though, either.
No.
It was about, hey, I did this for you.
Yeah.
And
right.
I made this nice place for you to live.
Right.
And this is how you pay me back.
Yeah, well, that's
it wasn't.
When he bought the motel in Paris,
I
think probably we're talking about, he gave more people more chances. There's some people, I should say, than they actually deserved. I remember I used to go up there and give him some ideas before he found YouTube. And anyway, and about fixing stuff. And I can remember, like, he had the one, let's just say the bathroom in the one motel room had just spotless, perfect, And it wasn't 3 months, because as a rental place, I did on the way through. They totally trashed it. He goes, I thought I knew the good in that guy's heart, but probably not another chance for that guy for me anyway. But that's the way John was, like you guys said too.
Yep.
Give everybody a chance, So,
Bobby, we got another song there for Johnny? Well, Bobby, welcome back to Mayberry RFD. I'll tell you, that's what I love about this town. I know I got a little backlash from people about economic growth and growth of Big Rapids, but today reminds me of Mayberry RFD. You know that Emery, or what was his name in the tool shop? What the heck was his name? Emery, wasn't it? No, it wasn't Emery. No. Emery's my neighbor. But anyway, don't you love this town, though? I mean, just think about it. When you guys grew up in there, you did, Jerry, with John, and commitment you made to each other's friendship. And today, again, and Jerry Garner and Joe Bashaw with me, and it's a tribute to John Marcinkewciz's life. John, for you, just jumped on. He died at the age of 53 Saturday, yeah. And big loss. So we're talking about him a little bit here. Joe, going back to you, any more stories, or what do you...
I have a million stories of that guy, but there's only so many we can talk about on the radio.
Sure. Yeah, I know Alan right now, but lasting impression on him for you, Joe. What do you think? 10 years down the road, you're never going to forget the guy, right?
I'll never forget him. I mean, the things that we've done together is I hold dear to my heart. I mean, he was literally a brother to me. Yeah. There's no other way to put it. He was more than a friend. He was family. Yeah. We did a lot. I mean, stories we've done it all.
Yeah. Every time somebody like that passes, I think of my dad, and I get teared up because how much I miss him. And my dad's been gone more than 25 years. But you just say, go back to reality, all the love that they gave you, and the good times and this and that. But I would say my lasting impression on John is I'm grateful to known of him.
Absolutely. He had so many people that were so close. Yeah. I mean, that he brought in that just family. I could go on for so many people that were close to him.
Yeah.
He just loved him. He was great.
Yeah. Now, he has a couple boys, and how are they doing? I mean, they're doing as good as can be expected. Yeah.
I talked to Tyler yesterday, and it's a shock. It's going to hit them harder later. Right now, they're dealing with all the the stuff they don't want to deal with. Yeah. But they're getting through it, and I told them, no matter what, I'm here for you, your entire family. You've always been there for me.
Are they little Johnnies?
What's that?
They act like daddy?
They did when they're around the same age as my daughter Kayla. So
okay. Yeah.
They grew up a lot together.
Yeah.
They're good. They're good kids. Great boys.
Yeah. Jerry, what do you think? What lasting impression he's leaving on you, and you think 10 years down the road, what are you going to say about John Marcinkewcz?
The same thing I said today. The guy lived life his way to the fullest, and he was good to people. And you just won't forget that.
Yeah. With that being said, sorry to interrupt there, Jerry, but there is a song that we can't play it on the radio here, but look it up, listen to it. It's Kid Rock, Don't Tell Me How to Live.
Oh,
when you're on your own time. Nope, you can't play that one here, but listen to it.
Who cares? I'll play it.
Swearing.
Heck with the license. We'll just play it.
It's bad.
Oh, the owner's outside, so she may.
Well, the other song that we could play, though, is Elvis Presley. I Did It My Way. That's a good one. That emulates.
I got Luke Combs here.
Luke Combs.
That was
Shelley. That was Shelley's.
By the way, B1039, all the programming will be by Pat and friends today.
And you know what, Bob? We can't forget our sponsors, Bob Ford.
Bab Ford.
There you go.
Some people call it Bob Ford.
Yep, I call it Bob Ford.
Bob owns it.
And the body shop and the service center up there, Seth Winger, the fellow from Baldwin that came over with the Winger Insurance on Perry Street. Thanks, Seth. Doing a great job for all his customers out here in Big Rapids and Baldwin. And then Zach Mann and Pennzoil down there. You can't beat those boys. They're real honest and timely. Get you in and out real quick, and plus the 10-minute oil change. Get a free car wash with every service. So, Zach Mann, we appreciate your sponsorship. Let's play one from you. Wow, we've done a great tribute, I think, to our good friend John Marcinkewcz. We're going to wrap it up here with a few last words. Joe, what do you think?
I am just blessed to have known him, to be as close to him, and him to be a brother to me. Yep. And everybody that I've met because of him, his family, his everything. He was a phenomenal guy.
And then we're having services for him. He's at Monk Funeral Home.
Monk Funeral Home. Viewing is Wednesday evening Funeral is Thursday at 11.
Yeah, that'll be a big one. And the funeral's at Monk?
Yeah.
Probably should have it at a church, bigger place.
It's going to be
supposed to be good weather. So we'll be sending him off on his motorcycle up there in the big skies, won't we?
That's
Thursday
right.
At 11, is it?
I believe it's 11,
Yeah. Jerry, you've been a great friend to him. I know he cherished the time that you guys spent together, and I smile. You can see my smile on my face because I loved you guys back then, and as I do today. Jim Toogood back at Chuck and Murdy's, I see him every morning. I love the guy. He worked for. I'll never be able to talk about those. But I look at you and Paul Addington and John and Jim Toogood as the four amigos. Was there any other ones in there with you four?
We just had a lot of fun. Like I said, back in high school, there was a bunch of us guys hung out together, and a bunch of Joe would attest to that. Just a bunch of
a tight.
It was probably we probably had 12, 15. Yeah.
And that's a tribute to John that you guys all stayed together like that over the years. Yeah. But the funeral is at St. Peter's. Jan Jackson Ward, he just texted me. It popped up on my screen here. And the funeral's at St. Peter's at 11.
St. Peter's.
Yeah.
Yeah, the viewing, I think, Wednesday night is at Monk, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I think the funeral's at St.
They
Peter's.
were Lutheran because he did go to St. Peter's, didn't he?
Yes, I should have paid a little closer
So that'll be
attention.
big enough. Yeah, hopefully.
Not at all.
No, had you heard of him?
Maybe maybe your conversations, but yeah.
Well, Bob, you're a big part of Big Rapids right now, and I didn't mean to discredit your not knowledge of him.
I'm a very little tiny.
You missed out on a great guy. As these two
I missed out on a lot of great guys, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's what's great about Big Rapids. He helped make it.
And
so
I kind of feel like I'm in Jerry's place here because I lost my best friend. He was dropped dead.
When was that?
That was about 20 years ago.
Oh wow.
So and you try to grasp it. And,
and that's the thing, Bob. Life is fragile. We don't know how many days any of us have left. Joe and I, unfortunately, have a lot less than Joe and Jerry over here. But that's just it makes me feel bad that people in this community right now, with resentment towards each other right now. They were friends, they were family, and now we have such a difficult time in our lives. But if you really step back and look at John, he didn't have that kind of life, and so you try to think maybe we ought to all emulate him. Again, I want to stress, I don't hate anyone in town. I'm disappointed in some decision making, but they're just hate me. I've heard some bad things maybe said about me recently, and I feel bad for those people because they're only hurting themselves with hate. I don't hate them. You can say all you want to, and I do not hate you folks out there that disagree with what I think should be happening in Big Rapids. But Joe wants a few minutes, and we're going to split this pad, as Johnny would say, right?
Yeah.
And Joe, I know you.
Yeah. First, let me. I'd be remiss. Pete let me take his chair. Pete Kent, and he wanted to make sure the folks realized what John meant to his family also. So I just wanted to throw that in. And I guess probably for me, this might be true confession or something, but I loved that my daughter and John were best friends. I can remember I said to her once, why can't you meet a guy like John? But Dad, you always said he was so crazy and wild. I goes, I know, but I love him. And I goes, I wish you weren't such good friends because I'd like him as a son-in-law. I mean, I literally told my daughter that once, and I know I'm tearing up, but
that's all right.
He was a good man. And if you don't mind, I got my best friend, the community, to say a prayer for Kerry Frank. He needs prayers. That's probably the best I can say it for right now, okay? So if you could, and say a prayer for Carolyn, Shelley, and the boys. A lot of prayers are needed out there. So that's my tribute to John.
You know what?
I love you, John.
Here's what he meant to you. Bobby, what's our farewell song?
I got two. We can do My Way, and then we could do the class song, I guess, right, Joe?
Let's do
Our Welcome to the Jungles. Yeah, that was our class song.
Play that one first. We'll do
my daughter Carrie asked.
Okay, so we'll do that next.
As this group.
There you go.
And then we'll do My Way. All right. Curries Corner, B1039.
Hey, welcome back. This is called Extra Time on Pete and Pat Show this morning. We're not done quite yet. Bob, did you want to say a few things?
Not at all.
All right, that's enough of yours.
Yeah,
Joe,
that's usually how much I get on this show anyway. So that
Joe's got a few words.
Yeah, I just like be remiss not to mention my wife and that also want to say prayers for Carolyn and Shelley too, because they were all part. John was a brother to them also, and that close to our family. So I wanted to just pass that on.
You know what he'd say to you right now, Joe? Oh, quit it. Live life. Smile. Be a John Marcinkewciz.
Yeah.
Lighten up. Go have a beer. Yeah. Enjoy life after work.
Yeah.
His whole life, like so many other people. Look at Elvis Presley. Those two are two of a kind, really.
Yeah.
John had the moves and the grooves, and man, he went out like a trooper, and he didn't want anybody feeling sorry for him. Never asked for anything. He was my hero, man. He was an entrepreneur. Can't not bring up his partner, Tim Cooper, right?
Tim Cooper.
Yeah, it's a big loss for Tim, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Tim and him were partners for, you think, 30?
It's got to be 30.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty close. I would say, after college, they started that business. It would have been 94, 95, something like that. Yeah.
Do you think, did Tim come here to go to college? Is that what happened?
I don't know how they met.
Alma. And then they came over here and started. Did Tim have a business before he came over and started Universal with John?
He was a manager at one of these rent-owns, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was.
Mistaken. Together started this thing in Big Rapids first, down there where Woolworths used to be on the corner.
Yeah. Right. I remember that.
Then it branched out from there, and they just grew it.
Universal rent-to-own. He had furniture, and did he still end up having that stuff yet, or no?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they still have that.
They still
and that's the part that Tim would do, and his son. I think his son. They're doing a great job. Those two.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so it's going to be a big loss for those guys as far as business partners.
For sure.
Yeah, I think Tim's father-in-law might have helped him, Roger Miller.
Yeah, and I don't
might have helped him a little bit. I know I did their basement when they moved out to DeFever subdivision. That's when Tim
I didn't know Tim when they met, so I'm not 100% sure. So if I said something wrong there, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think that was the story, that they had met somehow. Tim had been a manager. John got the idea, or the two of them got the idea to start one on their own, and it blossomed from there, and they ran a good business for sure.
They were a team.
Yeah.
For sure.
And that's another tribute to him and to Tim.
Yeah.
It's hard to get along with a partner that long.
Yeah.
That's not a very good successful rate on partnerships. Yeah. And those two, they complemented each other. Two different people altogether, eh?
Yes, definitely two different people, but they worked well together.
No.
I just kind of feel. I'm trying to lighten up, move on
That's good, Joe, because you need to. God knows that. You're over here bawling. Johnny wouldn't like that. He wants us all to be positive.
You know what do you do? Come on, Dad.
Yeah, there you go.
Keep going.
Yeah. Well, once again, we want to make sure, thanks to Jan Jackson Wardy, saying that the funeral is at St. Peter's at 11 o'clock Thursday, and visitation for John Marcinkewciz, our friend. Yep. So, anything else, boys?
That about sums it up.
I think that sums it up.
Too long.
Just, hey, I would just say, all you out there listening, try to live your life like that.
Yep. That's for sure. Any more stories, Joey?
Nope, not for the air.
Okay. Not for the air. That's a true Harley Davidson guy right there. Joe, you all done?
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Bob, how about you? Again?
One more song and thank the sponsors.
We're out of here. Yeah. Thanks again, Bob Horn from Bab Ford up there. Bab, Blue Moon. Golfing starts tomorrow night at Clear Lake. I got to put a plug in.
There you go.
They got rained out last night and tonight. Still too damp, but Wednesday's opening night at Clear Lake for leagues. Kim Wells, most single in Big Rapids, will be golfing. The ladies want to come out and pick on
eligible
Kim.
bachelor. Is that what you're trying to say?
Eligible bachelor, Kim Wells. Yep, he is out there, number one. And then other than that, I don't know what else is going on in Big Rapids. Any news? You guys got any news?
No,
nothing. Peaceful.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Pat and Bob, for letting us do this.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate
to have you. All right.
Thanks for having me.
Wrap it up with Elvis.
Well, that wraps it up, Bobby. Rest in peace, John Marcinkewciz. Born November 29th, 1969, died April 29, 2023.